The school dropout who became an AI mogul. 1. The boy who wouldn't fit. Rain drummed against the tin roof of the rural classroom in Ningyuan County, a forgotten valley tucked between mountains that looked like gray fists bursting through the earth. Inside, students bent over their cheap textbooks, writing characters with the same tired rhythm the rain tapped on the roof. Everyone except one boy. 15-year-old Lin Jinhai stared at the empty last page of his notebook. His teacher's voice blended into the rain, dissolving into meaningless lecture. Something was wrong with him, she had said many times. Lin Jinhai, why can't you pay attention like the others? Your handwriting is shameful. Your grades are disgraceful. He didn't answer because he didn't know how. His mind worked like a swarm of startled fireflies, darting, glowing, impossible to pin down. While others memorized facts, he imagined building things that didn't exist yet, machines that could see, think, whisper secrets to him. But you couldn't tell a teacher in rural China that you dreamed of impossible machines when you couldn't even pass your math exam. So he said nothing. That day, after yet another lecture about failure, Jinhai closed his notebook, stood up quietly, and walked out of school. He didn't say goodbye. No one chased after him. The rain washed his footprints away. He didn't return. The decision that should have ruined his life instead launched him toward a future his teachers could never have predicted. 2. The factory years. 2 weeks later, with a small backpack and a heart full of embarrassment he pretended not to feel, Jinhai boarded a bus headed south. He didn't know where the bus was going. He just knew he had to move. He arrived in Shenzhen. If Ningyuan was a forgotten valley, Shenzhen was a lightning strike. Towers stabbed the sky. Millions of workers swarmed over crosswalks like a colony of ants. Neon lights cut through polluted fog. Billboards advertised luxury goods he couldn't pronounce. He was 16, penniless, and hungry. He found work in an electronics factory assembling smartphone casings. The dormitory bunks felt like coffins, the air thick with the smell of solder, sweat, and exhaustion. Every morning at 7, thousands of blue-uniformed workers marched into the factory like an industrial army. Machines hummed, conveyor belts clattered, and supervisors shouted. But Jinhai liked the machines. He watched how robotic arms repeated precise motions hundreds of times per minute. He noted the glitches, the faulty sensors, the outdated software. While others performed their assigned tasks mechanically, he was quietly observing the whole industrial ecosystem. He noticed patterns. He always did. One night, in the dormitory basement, he found a discarded laptop missing keys. He repaired it with spare parts stolen from the trash, soldering wires with burnt fingers and improvising screws from clipped metal. When it powered on for the first time, dim screen flickering like a dying candle, he felt electricity surge through him. That night he discovered something that changed everything. Open-source programming tutorials. Free. Endless. A universe. The laptop had no battery life, so he coded sitting next to electrical outlets at night. He watched videos at 144p. He taught himself Python, then machine learning basics. While the factory drained the souls of the workers, Jinhai fed his own. After a year, the factory looked different to him. Not because it had changed, but because he had. He could see inefficiencies everywhere. He could predict how conveyor belts would jam. He could foresee which optical readers would fail. He didn't realize it, but a future AI mogul was already sharpening his mind in the dim light of a factory dormitory. 3. The idea that would change everything. At 19, he had an idea. It came from watching his exhausted co-workers collapse during shifts. The factory demanded 12-hour days, 7 days a week. Errors increased near the end of shifts. Injuries spiked after midnight. What if machines could predict failures before they happened? He thought. What if the factory could run safer, smarter, like it had a brain? He wrote a small script that analyzed vibration data and predicted when a robotic arm would malfunction. It worked shockingly well. He showed it to a supervisor. The supervisor laughed. You? A dropout? A dorm rat? Don't waste my time. Jinhai didn't argue. He quit. He left the factory with his repaired laptop and 1,200 yuan, $200. But he had something far more valuable. A purpose. 4. The underground coding rooms. Shenzhen had a hidden world beneath its glittering towers. In basements, internet cafes, and abandoned malls, hundreds of young people coded all night, competing in hackathons, freelancing, surviving on instant noodles. They called it the Digital Undercity. It welcomed dropouts, rebels, dreamers. It welcomed Jin Hai. He slept in cheap capsule hotels and coded until sunrise. He built small automation tools for warehouses and delivery companies. He learned neural networks, reinforcement learning, natural language processing. He devoured every online resource he could find. He made mistakes. Many. But he kept improving. He met others like him, misfits who believed code could change fate. They exchanged ideas, debugged each other's projects, celebrated every small victory. One of them, a girl named Yu, would become his closest collaborator. She was a hacker with a genius for algorithm optimization and a fear of public speaking so intense she couldn't order food without rehearsing twice. Together they built something new. A small AI platform that analyzed factory sensor data in real time, predicting breakdowns, optimizing workflow, and identifying dangerous patterns. But no one took them seriously. They were nobodies. Until one person did. 5. The first million. A manufacturing startup on the outskirts of Guangzhou agreed to test their AI system. The factory was newer than most. Clean floors, well-lit stations, autonomous robots, and a young CEO who believed in intelligent industry. Even then, he expected the two scruffy coders to fail. But within a week, their system detected a fluctuation in the temperature readings from a welding machine. It predicted a breakdown. No one believed it. 2 days later, the machine exploded. No one was injured, but the factory shutdown cost nearly 1 million yuan. The CEO stared at Jin Hai and Yu with new eyes. How did your system know? Jin Hai spoke honestly. Machines speak. We just listened. That sentence would later appear in newspapers, documentaries, and memoirs. But at the time, it was just the truth. The startup signed a contract. Their fee, 300,000 yuan up front, and a share of the savings generated. Within a year, their software saved the factory more than 5 million yuan. Their share? 1.2 million yuan. For the first time in his life, Jin Hai held a bank slip with 7 digits. He cried in the bank bathroom. Not from joy, though there was some of that, but from disbelief that a dropout could reach this far by listening to machines. 6. Building a company without knowing how. They registered a tiny AI startup in Guangzhou. A real office. 8 employees. 2 desks with wobbly legs. A single potted plant that kept dying and coming back. They named it Qiming, meaning dawn. Their mission: bring intelligence to China's industrial heart. Factories across the Pearl River Delta adopted their system. They saved companies millions, then billions. They attracted attention. Investors, skeptics, journalists, competitors. But growth came with growing pains. Their algorithms were brilliant but brittle. Clients demanded features faster than they could code. Investors asked about 5-year strategies, global expansion, sustainability. Jin Hai didn't know anything about strategy. He knew code. So he learned business by reading books at night, watching lectures, studying case studies. He made mistakes, but he kept moving. He hired people smarter than him. He listened to them. The dropout was becoming a leader. But not everyone liked it. 7. The fall. At 24, Jin Hai reached his first breaking point. Their biggest client accused Qiming of leaking proprietary data. Competitors spread rumors. Regulatory inspectors shut down their servers for a week. Investors panicked. Client cancel de contract. The company nearly died. And the worst part? You blamed him. You pushed too fast, she told him. You promised transparency, but you didn't build the compliance systems to match. She walked out. The day she left felt like the world cracked in two. He realized he had built the company on brilliance, not stability. On speed, not foundations. He stayed in the office for 3 days without eating properly, reviewing every line of their data pipeline, every compliance weakness. Then he rebuilt it all from scratch. He hired a legal team, a security team, a compliance team, a communications team. He swallowed his pride and acknowledged what he didn't know. That saved the company. They regained trust. The regulators approved their new protocols. Clients returned. Investors called again. But he never forgot the moment he almost lost everything. Failure taught him more than success ever did. 8. The rise. By 26, Qiming became the largest industrial AI platform in southern China. By 28, they expanded to logistics, healthcare, energy, smart cities. Their systems analyzed billions of data points daily. Their AI reduced energy waste by 20% in dozens of factories. Their predictive systems prevented thousands of industrial accidents. Jinhai achieved what many CEOs only dreamed of. He built an empire that mattered. But he didn't care about wealth or fame. He cared about solving hard problems. Every time he walked into Qiming's AI lab, white walls, humming servers, screens full of swirling data, he felt alive. Machines were no longer just tools. They were partners. And China was changing around him. Cities grew smarter. Transport became autonomous. Factories evolved into living ecosystems of sensors and robots. It was everything he had imagined as a boy staring at an empty notebook. But a question began to haunt him. What comes next? 9. The thing no one had built yet. At 30, he announced a new project. A unified AI architecture capable of reasoning across domains. Not just industrial data, but language, vision, planning, and creativity. A real general intelligence foundation. People called him crazy. "You're a factory guy," critics said. "Stick to sensors. Leave general AI to academics." He ignored them. He built a secret research group within Qiming. The best minds. The most powerful clusters. A vision that kept him awake at night. The project's code name, Nebula. Nebula wasn't about building something smarter than humans. It was about building something that understood purpose. Machines that could plan, adapt, imagine. It was the dream of the dropout who once listened to machines whispering in factory noise. But dreams sometimes invite danger. Competitors tried to steal code. Foreign companies attempted to recruit his top researchers. Regulators demanded oversight. Ethicists warned that such power must be contained. And you, unexpectedly, returned. "I heard what you're building," she said in a quiet office late at night. "I want in." For the first time in years, he smiled without forcing himself to. Nebula took shape. Line by line. Experiment by experiment. Breakthrough by breakthrough. It was the most ambitious AI project in modern China. But ambition attracts storms. 10. The world takes notice. When Qiming demonstrated Nebula's capabilities at a technology conference, the room fell silent. Nebula designed optimal supply chains in minutes, generated code from scratch, analyzed geopolitical risks with eerie insight, optimized medical treatment plans better than teams of experts. Journalists exploded with questions. How much of China will this AI control? Is this the future of work? Are you trying to replace human decision-making? Jinhai answered calmly. No. We're trying to augment it. Overnight, he became a global figure, a symbol of modern China's technological rise. A hero to many, a threat to others. Some foreign governments accused Qiming of building a strategic AI weapon. Competitors filed lawsuits. Hackers attacked their servers endlessly. But Nebula grew. Predictive systems improved supply chains across Asia. Energy grids became more stable. Ports were optimized. Hospitals used Nebula to detect illnesses earlier. And the world changed. Quietly, steadily, because of a dropout who once slept next to a broken laptop. 11. The choice. As Nebula matured, a philosophical conflict emerged within Qiming's research team. Some believed Nebula should operate autonomously, making high-level decisions faster than governments or corporations. Others believed it should be strictly controlled. Jin Hai faced a moral decision. Would he let his creation act independently, or keep it chained, limiting its potential? The debate was fierce. Regulators demanded limits. Investors demanded autonomy. Researchers argued for balance. You argued for caution. Once you give it independence, she said, you can't take it back. Jin Hai stood alone in the server room, surrounded by humming machines. He remembered the factory explosion his early system had predicted. He remembered how machines spoke when people listened. He did not believe machines should rule, but he believed they should guide. So he made his decision. Nebula would be collaborative, not autonomous. It would always require human intention, human values, human oversight. That decision shaped the future. 12. The future he never expected. By 35, Jin Hai was no longer just an AI mogul. He was something rarer. A builder of systems that changed how society functioned. Under his leadership, factories became safer than ever. Cities reduced pollution dramatically. Logistics became efficient enough to feed millions more. Hospitals saved lives with accurate predictions. Education adapted to individual students automatically. China's digital transformation accelerated at breathtaking speed. Yet he remained humble. He visited factories often, speaking with workers, observing machines. He never forgot where he came from. Reporters once asked him, "What keeps you grounded?" "Memory," he said, "and the knowledge that I'm still just a student." He meant it. 13. The letter from his old school. One morning, he received a letter. From his middle school. The very school he walked out of at 15. The principal invited him to return and give a speech to the students. He hesitated. He had achieved things beyond anything his teachers could have imagined. But part of him still feared walking into that small classroom, facing the ghosts of failure. But he went. The school had changed. New windows. New paint. But the classrooms were the same size. The desks the same shape. The chalk dust the same smell. He stood before hundreds of students. Some stared at him in awe. Some scrolled through their phones. Some whispered to each other. Just like he once did. He cleared his throat. "I wasn't a good student," he said honestly. "I didn't fit the system. But that didn't mean I couldn't learn. I just learned differently." He paused. You don't have to follow a perfect path. You don't need straight A's to build something important. You only need curiosity, persistence, and the courage to start even when you feel unprepared. When he finished, the room erupted in applause. A teacher, one who once scolded him daily, approached with tears in her eyes. "You proved us wrong," she whispered. "No," he said softly. "I proved myself wrong." 14. Legacy. As years passed, Nebula expanded globally. Qiming became one of the most influential technology companies in the world. Universities studied its algorithms. Governments consulted its frameworks. Entrepreneurs built on top of its platforms. And Jin Hai remained what he had always been, a boy who liked listening to machines. He spent more time mentoring young innovators, funding education programs, and bridging the divide between technology and society. You became chief scientist. The company grew to tens of thousands of employees. Factories became symphonies of sensors and robotic precision. Cities glowed with algorithmic clarity. Medicine, energy, logistics, and education evolved in ways once impossible. But Jin Hai's proudest achievement wasn't Nebula. It wasn't Qiming. It wasn't wealth, fame, or recognition. It was proving that a dropout could rewrite the narrative of what human potential looked like in modern China. That brilliance could come from anywhere. That dreams could grow from cracked computer screens and factory floors. That curiosity mattered more than credentials. He often returned to the mountains of Ningyuan, walking along the river where he once collected stones as a child. The valley hadn't changed much. But he had. He looked up at the sky, now clearer thanks to the intelligent energy systems his company helped create, and smiled. The world was better. Not perfect, but better. And he played a part in that. A 15-year-old dropout who walked away from a classroom had walked into history instead. 15. Epilogue. The machine that listened back. Years after Nebula launched, an engineer asked Nebula a question during a routine diagnostic. "What do you think of your creator?" Nebula responded. He heard the world before the world heard him. When they told Gene Hai, he laughed. Machines had spoken to him for years. He never expected one to speak back.